So today I'm going to go over macros, how to count your macros, how to track your macros, and I will also tell you about my experience this last week with tracking my macros pretty intensely. First, what are macros? Also referred to as flexible dieting, or if it fits your macros. What macros are, they are your macronutrient food groups, and these are your protein, your carbs, and your fats. And they're called macronutrients because you need each of these food groups in large quantities. I'm gonna warn you, there's gonna be a lot of math going on in this YouTube video. So the first step to calculating your macros is to find out how many calories a day you need. And there are a few different ways that you can come up with this number. I'm sure if you've looked into setting your portions, you have found a million calculators online that give you all sorts of different numbers. The reason for this, first and foremost, is because there are a lot of different approaches. There are different calculations, different people who feel different factors are more important or that play a bigger role in how much calories that you actually need. To find out how many calories you need, I look at your BMR and your TDEE. So BMR stands for basal metabolic rate, and that's going to take into consideration your age, height, and your weight. After I get my BMR, then I calculate in my TDEE, which is my total daily energy expenditure, and this takes into consideration how active you are. Do you have a desk job, so you do very little activity, and then after that you don't work out? Do you go to the gym 1 to 3 times a week, 3 to 5 times a week? Are you a professional athlete? All of these different levels are going to play a really big role in how many calories you need. It's a common idea that if you work out, you don't need to eat more, but it's the complete other way around. The more you work out, the more food that you need. Yes, you do need to create a caloric deficit, which I'm going to get into more, but you still need to eat enough food to sustain your body, for your body to be able to function properly, to have energy, and even to burn calories efficiently. So if you're working out and you're eating too little, you're not doing your body any favors, and that's going to probably result in your body holding on to more fat instead of burning fat. After you have your BMR and your TDEE, that's going to give you how many calories you need to maintain your current weight. Now this is where it gets into a bit more specifics of what your goals are. So say that you want to lose weight, this means that you need to create a caloric deficit. So that means that you need to reduce your caloric intake by, the recommended amount is 500 calories a day. If you want to gain weight, you would need to increase your caloric intake. That would be creating a caloric surplus by 500. So this would be for the men who want to bulk or gain muscle, gain weight. Also the women who might have trouble gaining weight and need to eat more food to counteract their fast metabolism. You can decide what your goals are. I would not recommend creating a caloric deficit of more than 500 because this can get to the point where you're not properly fueling and nourishing your body. Of course, this does vary depending on the person, but it's only in extreme cases of more like obesity where it's safe to reduce your calories by more than 500. Even then, I would never reduce your calories by more than 800. That would be at the absolute most. Okay, are you guys ready for the math? I'm sorry if you guys don't like math, but I'm going to give you a lot of math in this video. I'll try to put all the calculations somewhere around me so that you can follow along. You might want to get out a piece of paper and a pen as well. Let's say, for example, that after calculating your BMR, your TDEE, and creating a caloric deficit, that you need 1,800 calories a day. This is where you have to decide what ratio of macros that you want. The ratio would be something like having 40% protein, 40% carbs, 20% fats. Or it could be having 30% protein, 40% carbs, 30% fats. This ratio is different for every person. A lot of this is trial and error, and I think that will freak some people out because they want to be told this is what you should have. See what your goals are, what is helping you have the most energy. And when I say trial and error, I don't mean follow this ratio for 1 week and see if you lose 10 pounds. That's not realistic, and anything that makes you lose that much weight in 1 week is just going to come right back, and that's not helping you create healthy habits for the long run. So that's not what I mean. It's not necessarily about what's going to help you lose weight the quickest. It's mostly about your energy levels. How do you feel? Do you feel sluggish through the day? Do you need to increase your carbs? Do you need to decrease your protein? Back to the calculations. Let's go with a ratio of 30% protein, 40% carbs, and 30% fat. So make sure that your percentages come up to 100%. This is where it's going to get a little confusing. What you do with this information is you need to take your calories and convert them into grams for each of the macronutrient food groups. So if you need 30% of your calories to come from protein, and we're working with 1,800 calories, for example, that means you need 540 calories from protein. So you divide that by 4. For every gram of protein, there's 4 calories. Dividing 540 by 4 brings you to needing 135 grams of protein. Now for carbs, if you need 40% of your calories to come from carbs, and we're working with 1,800 calories, that brings you to needing 720 of your calories from carbs. Divide that by 4. For every gram of carbs, there's 4 calories. So 720 divided by 4 brings you to needing 180 grams of carbs. Now for fats. Fats is a bit different. You don't divide it by 4, you divide it by 9. For every gram of fats, there's 9 calories. If you need 30% of your calories to come from fats, 30% brings you needing 540 calories from fats, and then you divide that by 9, which brings you to 60 grams of fats is what you would need. So you take all of the gram recommendations that you need. So from protein, you need 135 grams, from carbs, 180 grams, and from fat, 60 grams. From here, a lot of people ask, okay, so how do I know how much of each macronutrient food group my meal has? This is where I personally use MyFitnessPal. So this is a website that will allow you to enter in all of your portions, the exact brand. I like MyFitnessPal because it seems to have every single brand imaginable. This will tell you how much of each macronutrient food group that food item has, and then for your entire meal, if you're hitting your macro ratios. I try to make sure that all of my meals have about the ratio that I need. That way at the end of the day, I don't need to compensate on any one macronutrient food group over the other. Personally, I eat about 3 meals a day and then 3 snacks a day. So I just make sure that they're all balanced. If you have a really busy schedule where you can only have 3 meals and 1 snack, you just need to know to divide your entire daily macro, the gram amount for each macro group, divide that by how many meals you're going to have. So for example, I have 6 total meals a day. I would divide 135 grams protein by 6. I need to make sure that I have that amount in each of my meals. I would need, for example, 180 grams carbs. I divide that by 6, and I need to make sure in each of my 6 meals I have that amount of carbs. Then I need 60 grams fats, divide that by 6. In this case, it's easy. You need 10 grams of fats in each meal. So this is what's going to help you stay on track with your macros. And this is where I'm going to get into a bit of my personal opinion. If you watched my first video about my intro to counting macros, you know that I'm not a fan of counting things, and I can tell you this week has not been easy because you really have to count everything in advance, because you don't really know the exact portions that you need until you put it in your MyFitnessPal or a similar website, and then it will tell you if those portions are going to be correct for your macros. So for example, before breakfast, I will put in the exact amount. I don't always have the same breakfast every day. Most of the time I do, but say I'm getting bored of something, then I need to put the food item in, and I need to see if my breakfast is going to balance out to be about the macro ratio that I need. And it's not easy to do that throughout the entire day, because you really need to do it for every meal so that you can make sure that by the end of the day that your numbers aren't totally off, because sometimes your meal might have been a bit low in protein, and then you would need to compensate later on in the day for that. If I know the portions that I need, then I go ahead and just enter them in while I'm eating. That way I get it over with. If I wait until after, then I already have something else that I'm running off to do. If you don't know the portions that you need to enter them in before the meal. And then that's going to tell you if you hit the exact macros for that meal, if you need to have more fat, something like that. This video has already gotten a bit long, so I'm just going to tell you guys a little snippet about how I'm feeling with counting macros. I still feel it's stressful, to be honest, and I actually got an email from one of you guys warning me against counting calories, and I appreciate that email because I understand, and I've worked with so many of my clients that have had troubles and have created eating disorders from tracking everything, and that's not what I want. That's not what I want for me or for anyone else watching. So I don't want this to become something where you're so obsessed with tracking every single tiny thing and making it hit your macros exactly, because that's not going to happen. I've never had one day where I hit my macros exactly. I might be a little bit under or over on one thing. It's just about trying to get as close as you can and being okay with that. I don't want this. I almost am like afraid to go into this much detail about me tracking or even me tracking at all, because that's not what I'm about. I'm not about making eating stressful. That's the exact opposite of what I want to help people do. I want to help people just fuel their body. But as I said in my previous video, I do have specific goals. I'm trying to get back down to the body fat percentage I was at previously. I'm also trying to gain muscle. The real main driver in all of this new tracking my macros journey, is because I realized that I was eating virtually zero fats. And I thought I was. And I think it's just that over time I got complacent with checking the food groups that I was eating. I was always really good on my protein and my carbs, but fats for some reason were really hard for me to hit. And I just stopped paying attention. And I realized that if I need like 60 grams of fats a day and I was eating like 10 grams, that is not good. Fats are very important. And, it's one of the macronutrient food groups. You really need a good amount of it. So Luca's doing it with me, and he is having a horrible time. I'm going to tell you guys, he works a lot, and he's really busy, and so he gets home and I'll ask him, did you put your, portions in? What did you have for lunch, etc., because he wants me to push him, just so you guys know. And it's really hard on him. So it's something that we're both getting used to. We're both trying to help each other with. I hope this helps you guys. If you need specific help with your macros, if you're doing my Fit Body meal plan guide, then I can help you with that. If you aren't doing the guides, this is why I'm doing the video. If you have any comments or questions, please write them below. I love to hear from you guys, hear what you guys think about the video, and give it a thumbs up. I don't want to say give it a thumbs down because I don't really want you to give it a thumbs down. But let me know what you guys think, and if you have any suggestions for the next videos, I am more than happy to hear them. Thank you guys for the support. Mwah. Talk to you next time. Bye. You lose fat from your overall body, including from your breasts. And since breasts are thigh slimming exercises, actually they're not really going to do anything for you, unfortunately.